Welcome YouTube to my 6th video in my series, CorelDRAW X8 training. Today we're going to look at some line tools. We're going to look at the Freehand Tool, the 2-point line, the B-Spline, the Polyline, the 3-point curve, and the Smart Drawing, which are all located 5 tools down. You can see they're all listed here. We do also have a couple other tools that we're not going to look at in this menu on this video. We'll wait for another video. That's the Bezier tool as well as the pen tool. These two are very similar tools. You can kind of control them with similar keyboard actions, and they're a little more in-depth detailed than the other tools. The artistic media tool we're not going to talk about today either, and that does some cool effects. It's typically you can do some neat things with it. Feel free to click on it and monkey with it, and I will cover that in a later video. At least that's the plan. But today we're going to learn about the tools I've got listed. So the first one we're going to use is the Freehand Tool. When I click on the Freehand Tool, we can see a number of things at the top. We have the outline thickness, which I'm going to leave at 0.567, and we have this little slider which adjusts the smoothness. If I move over, it tells you freehand smoothing. And what that does, if we have a 0 smoothness, and I click and hold my left mouse button, and I make a curvy line here, and I'm going to zoom in, you can see that it's very jaggedy. And when I turn the smoothness up on my line tool, I'm going to turn it to, say, 50 or right around where it was, and I do the same thing. If I zoom in, you'll notice it does nice smooth lines. It doesn't give me these harsh edges. So typically you want to leave that, excuse me, around 50. Got a bit of a cold today. You want to leave that around 50, and it makes nice smooth lines. So if you're trying to trace something, you're trying to follow a line, you can actually make some lines, and if you get a little jaggedy, when you let go, it actually smooths it out. So that's the Freehand tool. If you want to see all the nodes, you can click on the Shape tool, and you can individually pull them around and spin the nodes around and do things to them with all of these selections at the top. But for now, we're just going to learn how to draw lines. I'm going to select all these guys and hit the delete key on my keyboard to get rid of them. The next tool we're going to click on is the 2-point line tool. And the 2-point line tool basically makes a line with 2 points, so straight lines. So if I click and hold my left mouse button, and I can draw a line, and when I let go, it makes the 2-point line. Now if I start my next line where this one ends, I can click and hold and draw outward, and when I let go, it actually has connected those lines. And if I further start where I left off and click and hold, and it'll snap to my last node, and I let go, it actually makes a third, and it closes the shape. And if I was to choose a fill of, say, red, it will make my shape red. So it's a handy little tool. You can actually make very small motions with it. You can make intricate shapes if you want, and you can just add on to them. I think you can start over on here if you want, and as long as you click on a previous node, it will just keep adding and making a closed shape when you finish. Another thing you can do is auto close the shape, and to do that I'm going to make 2 lines, click and hold, and you can see up here you've got an auto close button. So if I click that, it just draws a straight line to close the shape, and now I can fill the tab. You have to be careful that you actually click to close your shape. If you are just very close, so for example I click and drag, and I click and drag, and I click and I drag, and I'm not quite on it, even if I intersect over it, it looks like it's closed, but if I go ahead and try to fill it, you can see that it won't work. And if I just choose the auto fill or close curve and then try it, it does work. It makes this weird little liney thing. So you want to make sure when you're connecting your lines, you want to make sure they snap, and that you can see it snaps to it, and then it grabs to it, and then you can fill your shape. So that's a very handy tool to kind of make quick lines, straight lines. It doesn't really do much with curves. You can individually curve them afterward. Again, any shape, you can click on your select tool, you can click on your node edit, and then you can individually move these nodes around. And if I wanted to make this a curve, I could just select right click on here and choose to curve, and then I could use this to make it like a moon shape. So you can adjust it and manipulate it after, but to get a basic shape, you could certainly use that line tool. Next in the list, we have the B-Spline tool. And B-Spline is kind of an interesting line for making curves. If you click and hold and let go, and then click again, you can see that when you click again, it makes a curve. And as I click, it keeps on making a line in a kind of a curvy pattern. So it's good for making curvature lines. And the closer you are together, you can actually control the curve. And it makes a nice smooth curve, as you can see. And if I go all the way back and I come to the end, you can see that it'll close my shape and I can fill it with a color. So B-Spline is good if you're trying to get into a tight trace and you want to click and you want to follow this curve and kind of make a circle to trace this outline, for example. You certainly use this tool. Excuse me. There's other tools that we can use as well, which make it a little bit easier, and I'll show you one in a second. So let's go ahead and delete that. But you can see it's good for kind of following. You click and hold, or you click and let go, click, and then you can kind of encompass a shape, and it makes curved lines. I don't typically use this a lot, but you may have a use for it, and then you can close it off to make your shape, like so. Whoops, click on green. Good. So that's the Spline tool. Very basic, making curved lines following a path. Next we have the Polyline tool. I use the Polyline tool a lot. It's very good for basically making lines. And if you click once and let go, it makes a box. You can click again, and then it automatically gives you a second line. So you could actually make a shape by clicking very quickly. It's a little faster than the 2-point line because it keeps the line going, and then to close the shape off, you just connect. So I've used the Polyline tool. I use it very frequently. You can use it to jump from one to another, and say bring this one over here. And if I want to make this a solid shape, we've previous this in previous videos, but you can click on your smart fill and then fill that shape in, and now you have a shape there. So the Polyline tool I use a lot. You can see it makes straight lines as you click, and then to finish the shape, like let's say you wanted to only have that, I would just instead of clicking on the end to close it, I would just double click, and double click would actually leave that unclosed shape. I could click on my node edit tool and then connect them together, and I think that might connect them. Let's see if I have a closed shape. Yes, I do. So that's one way to close a shape automatically. But you can see it's a very handy tool. You click, you draw, and if you're doing a trace, like let's say you want to trace that balloon again, let me double click to close that out of here. Let's do, say for example, this shape here. You can see it only does straight lines. So if I choose click here and I want to make this curve, I'd have to click, here and then down here and then one on the end and then back up here and then close it. And then once I have my shape, I can click on my shape tool, right click it, give it curves. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here and just follow this line here. There's another easier way to do this in a second I'm going to show you guys, but this is one way of certainly tracing the shape to make it nice and smooth. And you can see there's about 5 steps involved to make this one shape, which is taking longer than it needs to because I'm going to show you a tool right away. But for certain things, I do that frequently. And then we have our shape. I'll fill it green. So you can see I've kind of traced that shape. I'll give it no fill, and you can kind of see I've kind of made that design. So very powerful tool. I use the Polyline tool a lot. Now the 3-point curve is the way of making that shape very much quicker. So we click on the 3-point curve, and we'll make a curve over here. If I click, I click once and drag, and as I let go, it gives me a line that I can make a circle. So you can see that I'm getting my shape of my my balloon really fast here, and if I double click and finish it, I've got the shape. So let's say for example you wanted to trace this, you click once here and drag down, you click to the bottom, let go, and then boom, you can just move up and follow this shape with one easy click. You can see it's not exactly perfect, but it's a little quicker than doing the 5 nodes that I had. So I'm going to double click on it, and then I'm going to do the next one, drag it down to close it, and as I let go, I double click this, and you can see very quickly I've made that same shape with just two clicks instead of adding all those extra nodes. And then if I wanted to streamline it, I could certainly go in to the node tool and thicken up the lines or change the curves on where I wanted it and make it more closer with just the 2 nodes. So definitely is an awesome tool for the 3-point curve. Again, to use it, you select it, you click and drag, and then you let go, and then you can wah it out to make your curve. So let's make a heart. Let's drag it up here, click once to finish it, connect these other 2, and then wah it out, and we have a really primitive heart shape. Of course, again, you can always click on your shape tool, and you can maneuver it around and make it a nicer heart. You can see that just by moving these nodes around, it makes it a much nicer looking heart. But for the basic shape, all it is 2 nodes. It's an excellent tool to use. Again, all of these shapes you can intersect with each other and then create new shapes with this powerful smart fill, which I use a lot as well. So that takes care of the 3-point curve. So very nice for making curves. It's very good for tracing around things, the 3-point curve. Let me show you on this C. I'll click at 3-point curve, and I'm going to click once, and I'll drag down to this bottom part, and as I wah it out, you can see I've got a curve shape. It's nowhere near my my shape of my C, so I would have to finish the curve off and then add a few more nodes into it to actually, or maybe manipulate it with these curves instead to create the C. But it's a lot quicker than dropping nodes everywhere, and it makes it look a lot better as well. So you could certainly use this for tracing a 3-point curve. Okay, that takes care of that. The next one, I'm going to go ahead and delete these little objects, is the smart drawing. The smart drawing, I'm going to delete all my shapes that I've made, all my weird little things. The smart drawing is a way of drawing triangles and rectangles and circles and ovals quickly on the screen and having the CorelDRAW make a nice looking one for you. So we select smart drawing, and let's draw a box. So you can see I draw a box on the screen, and before I let go of my mouse, I'm not even connected, I don't think. I'm going to let go, and you'll see that it draws a perfect nice rectangle. I can do the same thing with a circle. If I make it almost circle, it'll turn it into a perfect circle. If I don't, it turns it into, you can see it's in more of an oval shape. But if I make a circle and I let go, it'll snap, and boom, perfect circle. You can do triangles as well. You draw them very roughly on the screen. It wasn't even connected, and you can see it connected it for me. I think if I stay far away from it, it probably won't connect it. Oh, it did connect it. Look at that. So you can see that it kind of kept the line curvy on this one. I didn't know what I was drawing. But if you want to do a quick circle or an oval, you can certainly just draw it with that tool, let go, and it kind of smooths out your corners and makes nice looking shapes. So you can do rectangles, you can do circles, you might be able to do octagons. Let's see if it makes an octagon. That kind of fakes it out. I don't use this tool very much. There's other ways of doing tools that I find better. But you can see it definitely makes straight lines where it thinks it's when you're trying to make a straight line, and curves when there. So it's a very simple tool as well. Anyways, that's the smart drawing tool. So you can see that there's a lot of cool features in the line tools. Again, we're going to do another video on Bezier. When you're doing a trace, if you can learn the Bezier tool and the pen tool, you can do tracing around vector objects, raster objects rather, very quickly. But you can also make them quickly with the 3-point curve and the Polyline tools, which we've used there. Anyways, that's it for this video, video number 6. Video number 7 is going to be coming right up as well. That one we're going to actually learn a few new tools, and we're going to actually work on a job that I'm actually working on for money for my business. So we're going to start using the practical end of things right away and showing you how to do that. So we look forward to seeing you in video 7. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Guys.